Yo, what's going on, YouTube? And welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy, Kevin Forte. And guys, I'm really excited for this one. Today, we are going over the second round matchup in the Western Conference between the Edmonton Oilers and the Calgary Flames. Ladies and gentlemen, we are on the precipice of the Battle of Alberta in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Not to pat myself on the back, but I did predict that this would happen. This is going to be a great series. These are two teams that I think, depending on who wins this series, honestly, and this is no discredit to who's on the other side in Colorado, I think who wins this series wins the conference. I think it's at that point where I really, hot take, I know my Flames fans, or, whoever's out there, the Avalanche fans, if you're watching this, I think whoever wins this series takes home the West, because I think when you look at these two teams, the way they play, I think they're going to be a tough match for either St. Louis or Colorado, depending on whoever gets out of that. Guys, we are in store for a very rough, very physical series. And when you look at what happened in the first round, for Calgary, they win Game 7. They were dominant in Game 7. Had it not been for Jake Ottinger, Dallas wouldn't have stood a chance. Dallas is going to have a lot of questions to answer this summer, but Calgary was incredible, and they were able to score enough, right? They were able to win it in overtime and get this thing done. But a tough series, right, because of that goalie. But they were still able to score just enough, right? Meanwhile, for the Oilers, they had some troubles of their own in their first round. They played the LA Kings. They were projected to do pretty well. They ended up going to 7 games. They were actually down 3-2 in that series. Faced some controversy going back to LA. They were able to win Game 6 on the road in an elimination game and Game 7 back at home. And shout out to the Oilers fans. That place was rocking. They were playing Enter Sandman for Game 7. That was incredible. So let's take a look at these two teams and their head-to-head matchup. So during the season, they split 2 wins for each of them during the regular season. Not really much to say there. Just this is a pretty even matchup. That's what that's telling me. Goals for this season, Calgary was 6th in the National Hockey League, and Edmonton was 7th in the league for goals for. So pretty close in that category. And this is where this could be the deciphering thing here in this series. You got goals against. The Edmonton Oilers 15th in the National Hockey League compared to the Calgary Flames, who are 3rd best in the NHL, only behind Carolina and the New York Rangers. So Calgary's doing pretty well in terms of their structure. And again, a lot of that is what we're going to talk about here in a second, and that's the coaching with Daryl Sutter. Looking at the power play for each of these teams, the Edmonton Oilers 3rd best in the NHL compared to Calgary, who is 19th. Oh no, they're 10th in the NHL in terms of their power play. The penalty kill, Edmonton 17th in the NHL compared to Calgary, who was 6th. So again, we're seeing a matchup here where we're going to see, in terms of special teams, it's going to, or whatever you want to call it, special teams, whatever it is. You're looking at the Edmonton Oilers' really good power play against Calgary's penalty kill. That's going to be the matchup to watch. And again, that might limit Calgary's physical play, because if they keep giving power plays to Edmonton, maybe they're not going to be as physical and taking penalties. So that is something to consider here. And I think that's something you have to remember when you look at the tail of the tape between these two clubs. So now we move on to, breaking them each down. So Calgary, what I like about the Flames and why I have them going all the way to the Stanley Cup final, honestly, is they can dictate play. I think their ability as a shutdown, defensive-minded team under Daryl Sutter, I think that favors them and bodes well in a series against Edmonton, who likes to be more, high fly, high scoring offense. You're not going to be able to do that. You're going to kind of get strangled by the Calgary Flames way of playing. And I think that's something to consider when you look at also the fact that Jacob Markstrom has been absolutely incredible. The only goalie during the playoffs so far to have a better save percentage than him is Jake Ottinger, right, who they just played against. So Markstrom is really going to be a force to be reckoned with, and I think that could pose as an issue here for the Edmonton Oilers. It's going to be tough for them to score goals. They have some depth scoring, but you're seeing the big guys score goals in Calgary, right? You're seeing Toffoli score goals. You're seeing Gaudreau every once in a while put in a couple goals here and there. You'd like to see a little bit more there. But they just have tough guys to play against, like Tkachuk, and obviously Luch and Lucic. So Calgary, this is going to be interesting for the Flames. I like how they stack up here. And then looking for, at the Oilers, very fast-paced game. Like I said, a lot more like the Toronto Maple Leafs we see. A very similar style of play with Draisaitl and McDavid. Even Zach Hyman scoring a couple goals. Darnell Nurse scoring. They need that depth scoring. That's been the Achilles heel for the Oilers. When they get that depth goal or two, they end up winning games. When it's all McDavid and Draisaitl, they can't win those games because that's all they're getting. And again, against Calgary, who has a high potent offense while being very good defensively, I think that could be an issue. They need to be able to score goals because Calgary is going to key on McDavid and Draisaitl. So the other guys have to score goals. And that's really going to be a critical factor here if the Oilers want to make some noise in this series. They're going to need that depth tonight. Looking at the Edmonton Oilers as well here with their goaltending, again, totally different than Jacob Markstrom. Mike Smith is still suspect in my eyes. He had some good games in that first round series, but he also had some duds. Really since that turnover in game 1, he kind of put the onus on himself. He really messed up, and he's been a lot better since then. But that's still there, and I think that the Oilers have to be good defensively in front of him. And again, when you talk about the Flames' offensive prowess, you have to be able to, keep the puck, of course, out of your own net, right? But you got to keep it out of your zone and just let Mike Smith get comfortable, because you saw what happened last game. In Game 7 against LA, he gets a shutout, right? So there is that potential there where he can do that for you, and they were able to win Game 7 by basically McDavid, kind of dazzling and doing what he does. McDavid and Draisaitl are the offense of this team, so they absolutely have to score. But again, you need the depth. I think the only way this series is a series is if Edmonton's able to get that depth scoring, because, again, it's going to be tough against Calgary. They are in for a tough one here. And like I said in the beginning of this video, there's going to be a lot of black and blues and bruises at the end of this series because both these teams play tough. I'm giving a lot of credit here to Calgary for being tough, but Edmonton's got some tough guys too. Obviously, Zach Kassian, Darnell Nurse. They're not fun to play against if you haven't figured out. So that's going to be a really good matchup, just seeing the big boys playing the big boys. I think this is going to be a really good series. Obviously, you have Lucic playing his former team, the Oilers, that he signed with to protect McDavid back in 2016-17. So I think that's going to be really fun to see him kind of battling it out with his former team. Obviously, the fan bases are very, very passionate, and I'm sure they'll show up to each other's games. This is going to be a great series. This is what you want in the playoffs, and this is why, nothing against Dallas, but Dallas versus Edmonton wouldn't have been nearly the series that this is going to be. And as much as I wanted Dallas to win because of Ottinger, Calgary Edmonton is the series you would have wanted here. And I think that this is going to be honestly, I think this is the series to watch. And as good as the other series are going to be, you talk about the just purebred rivalry between Edmonton and Calgary. This is the series. This is the series here in the second round to watch. We're going to have to see what happens, though. In terms of who I think is going to win, I think you guys already kind of have an idea of what I think. We have Calgary and Edmonton. I wish the Flames were wearing their Blasty jerseys, but not the case. The Oilers, they seem to be running that Halloween jersey a lot. That seems to be their new kind of jersey here. So this is kind of a throwback at this point. So who do I think is going to take this series? Like I said, I really like the Oilers' offense. I think McDavid and Draisaitl, and you get that little bit of depth scoring from the blue line, and guys like Hyman, Puljujarvi, Yamamoto getting on the board. I think the Oilers will be able to handle some of the pressure from the Calgary Flames. The Calgary Flames' defense, though, is incredible. Jacob Markstrom, you could argue, is going to win the Vezina Trophy this season based off of especially how he started the season. This is going to be a really good Battle of Alberta matchup and just igniting this rivalry even more. But I'm going with the Flames. I think the Flames just overall are the better team. I think they take this in 7 games. Calgary's the team to beat right now in the Western Conference in my eyes. I think right now, until Calgary gets knocked off, they are my favorite to come out of the West. The way Darryl Sutter has built this team, they remind me so much of the Islanders in the sense of their just that structure and that playoff style. They are a tough team to play against. And as good as McDavid and Draisaitl are, you have an injured Draisaitl coming into this series. You know, he kind of limped his way into Game 7. I think that Calgary does take this series. Edmonton's in for a bruiser, and I think Calgary will inevitably come out of this series in 7 games. So guys, let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Who do you think is going to take this series in the Battle of Alberta? I get goosebumps just thinking about how good of a series this is going to be. But let me know what you guys think. Guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again next time.